Few things are for sure in this life, but this is. If we live for any substantial amount of time, we will encounter grief due to the loss of a loved one. Not something any of us ever want, and we all handle it differently. This podcast is to feature those who have done purposeful and meaningful things through their grief. These people featured on here are normal folks, just like you and me, who were thrust into a place they never wanted to be in their lives. A painful place. As they move through their pain, they realize that something worthwhile, something for the greater good could come out of the unthinkable. I'm sure that none of them would ever consider themselves to be a hero, but when I searched the definition of the word hero, I found this: a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. And that fit. And so it's my privilege to bring you the remarkable stories of these heroes in grief. Hi, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Heroes in Grief podcast. And the response has been incredible so far, and I want to thank you for that. It's getting out to people, and they're letting us know that it's helping them. And that is what it's all about. I want to make you aware of a way that you can support this podcast without having to spend 1 cent, and that is through affiliate marketing. I've set up affiliate marketing for online shopping. If you do online shopping, then I have links to all the major retailers, most of them anyways, and I can provide them for you so that when you buy online through those links, you'll help support the podcast through the percentages that we get. It doesn't cost you anything more. You just shop like you regularly would on the sites that you love. It's very easy. All you have to do is shop. And that's it. Just let me know the links to the places that you want to shop at, and I will provide the affiliate links so that you can do it. If you want more information on this, you can go to heroesingrief.com. It takes you to the Linktree page where a video explains it in a little more detail. But you can always email me at tom@heroesingrief.com, and I can answer questions for you. But you can support the podcast that way, and it's very easy, very simple, and it doesn't cost you a cent. Isn't that great? Thank you. Now here's today's episode. So, hey folks, we got Shawnee Lynn Baker on today on Heroes in Grief, and Shawnee has a tragic but then a wonderful story through what she's experienced with the loss of her daughter Baylie, and she has. I'll tell you right off the bat, there's a site that they have, and how did I lose it here already? There we go. Here we are. BayliesWish.org. All right. So, and it's spelled BAYLIES wish.org. So you can go there and check it out even while we're talking here, but we'll have the links, of course, in the show notes and everything too. Shawnee, thank you for coming and on Heroes in Grief, and I'd like to hear all about the story and the great things that you're doing. I know you have a book out as well on Baylie and a lot of other things. So, what's your story?
Thank you so much, Tom. I have a long story, so I'll try to keep it brief. And what I really like to do is connect with those who are also grieving and have been through this. But Baylie was in her sophomore year at the University of Miami, and she was a neuroscience major. She was headed to med school. She was a smart girl, very responsible. She had done 8 extra college credits that summer at UNH to get ahead of the game, to keep her GPA high, and neuroscience program was really demanding. She knew that she wouldn't have time to go out with her sorority friends, and she was on the equestrian team, and she was in Zeta Chi Alpha sorority, but with the neuroscience program, she didn't have a lot of time to go out and socialize. So the first weekend back, she said, "Mom, you know what? I haven't been out much this summer. I really want to go out with my sorority this weekend. And then I know I have to really put my head down and work." And I said, "Okay, just be really careful. You know, it's a scary place. You got to watch it everywhere you go." She went out the first weekend back. I had been with her all week, setting up her dorm room. I left her on the Thursday, said goodbye, and we went on a sailing trip, my husband and I. Yeah, so we were on a sailing trip. Baylie went out that Saturday, her first weekend back, with her sorority sisters at the University of Miami. I'd spent the week with her, getting her dorm room set up. And I left her Thursday night. I talked to her Friday. I talked to her Saturday. We lost cell service on the sailboat. We were 3 hours offshore. And, I couldn't wait to text her the following morning because I hadn't had service through the night, see how her evening had gone. And I guess what had happened is she went out with her sorority friends. They were at a 21st birthday party, a pool party in the day. And then later that evening, they went into the clubs in Miami, a bunch of the girls. And she got separated from her friends. And she was taking an Uber ride back to campus. And she had been drinking water that evening. So it's hard for us to know where her head was at. There was alcohol through the day, but the girls reported, as did the bartenders, that she only drank water all evening. Um, so she agreed to get in an Uber. She canceled her Uber and got in an Uber with two men who had claimed to be med students at the U. They approached her and said, "Hey, we're headed back to campus as well. Why don't you share a ride with us? Our ride share is going to be here any minute." And that's when things went bad. And it wasn't long before she realized they weren't headed back to campus at all. They were going on a loop. She started sending text messages to her girlfriends saying, "I'm with some sketchy guys. They're just these random bros. I don't know their names. They won't tell me their real names." Along the way, they stopped at what she thought was a convenience store. There's a camera outside of the car, and it shows her sitting in the middle of the back seat with the two men. One man gets out, he goes in, but he actually goes above the convenience store to his apartment, and he comes back with a solo cup of water for her. He gives her the water in the Uber. She's sitting in the middle of the two men. She texts her friends, "They want me to drink the water too much." And at some point she spills it, and the Uber driver gets upset. He kicks them all out. Well, the one guy's cleaning up the mess. The other one runs into a club and gets another water for her to give her a second water, open cup with a straw. And she doesn't take the second water. She gets away from them. And at this point, she's confused and can't use her phone. Tells them, "I need you to come get me. I don't know what's wrong, but I can't use my phone. I can't use my app." And they said, "You're 3 miles away. You need to get an Uber and come back." And she said, "I can't call an Uber. I told you I don't know how to use my phone." "Well, we'll send you a pin and you can follow it and walk." So they sent her a pin to their location. She said, "Oh, thank God I can open that." And she head down, followed that in the pouring rain at 3 a.m. and walked right into 6 lanes of traffic where she was hit.
Ugh.
Yeah, so nothing ever happened to the guys. They were questioned, but just a series of terrible events from then on. She was in a coma for 6 weeks. We got the call. They wouldn't tell us what happened. We were on a sailboat the next morning. We got the call. So 8 a.m. Finally, we get to Miami 16 hours later, and we discover that she's really bad. She's in the ICU on a ventilator, on life support, and in a coma. And then the police say, "We think that your daughter was drugged." The video tells us that she was drugged, and the witnesses said she walked like a zombie, that they said they hadn't seen anything like it. It was as though it was an out-of-body experience, and she didn't respond to cars, slamming on their brakes and hitting their horns and yelling at her to get out of the way, and she just kept right on walking. Two witnesses described it as just being completely oblivious to her surroundings.
Do you think that I'm
walk.
sorry, do you think that she, because I don't remember you saying that she drank any of the water.
She
She did. Okay.
We don't know for certain. What we know is that she sends the text to say that she used an Uber all day. I mean, several times she had called an Uber, and suddenly she couldn't use her phone. And when she crossed, the video shows what police described was a typical video of someone who's been roofied. They said, "This is the city it happens. We see it all the time." And they don't walk like the drunk. So he said, "Your daughter does not walk like she's intoxicated. She doesn't stumble. She walks in a straight line. But what she doesn't do is respond to noise, light, sound, because their sensory is shut off." and they don't have any awareness of that. So at that point, we went in and said, we need blood work. Have you done toxicology on her? Have you done drug and alcohol testing? Surely you have. She's in the ICU. No, they said in the state of Florida, it is standard practice for us to not draw blood on a trauma patient because the insurance companies will deny the claim.
Oh my gosh.
So we never test for drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
So we asked for it again, but we didn't have a HIPAA waiver. So Baylie had a privacy law. Maybe she didn't want us to know she had drugs and alcohol. And because we didn't have those legal forms in place, we were not authorized to ask for that. So the police finally asked for it, but it was too late. Rufinol doesn't stay in the system long enough. So we were not able to get justice in the case, even though they were interviewed, and it seemed pretty clear that this is what happened. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
So the long and short of it is my mission through the foundation is to educate, bring awareness to these dangers, and also to make changes. What we discovered after the fact, which was really alarming to us, was that the school shut us down pretty quickly. As soon as they discovered that there was a possibility she had been roofied, and then it came out that there were suspecting it was sex trafficking because the loop is very common in Miami, that the young men will book an Uber ride for a loop so that the girl passes out in the car and then they transport her to the next location. I have been told by a rather reputable source that it happened to two other young girls, and they actually woke up in the hotel room across from the airport.
Wow.
So with this information, we wanted to let the school know that they needed to warn the other girls, the sorority girls, that these guys were still out there. And, they may do this again. But the school didn't want to hear anything about it. And they, in fact, said, if you say anything about it to anyone on campus, we'll have you removed from campus. So we were able to get Bailey's things out of her dorm room, and then we were not welcome back again. As time went on, we learned of other families who had experienced very similar experiences at other colleges throughout the U.S. And then we found out about the transparency law that doesn't exist. So this $900 billion industry is privatized. They don't have to disclose anything that happens. So there's about 6 laws that we've discovered significant loopholes in that we're working with other foundations on to try to close those loopholes. The transparency law is an addition to the Clery Act, and it's called the Corey Safety Act. And it's a bill currently in Congress that would force schools to disclose how many deaths and serious injuries occurred on and off campus within 3 miles off campus the previous year. So that would be overdoses, alcohol poisonings, falls, accidents, suicides, pedestrian fatalities, anything. But right now, none of the data is even kept. There's not even a documented system in any of the schools. So it's really hard for parents to get an idea of what that safety is, what it looks like. The other problem we found is that a lot of the schools are still using an outdated system, the blue light system in the parking lots, where you run up and press a light, wait for police. So that was developed in the 80s, and it costs the schools $90,000 a year to maintain them. And we feel like that money would be better used for a safety app on the phone.
Do they even monitor them?
Right.
I want to, you mentioned that she couldn't use her phone. Was that because of her inability, because of her cognitive state, or was that something was done to the phone?
No, they think it was her cognitive state. Those were the sort of clues to say that something was very wrong. She couldn't figure things out as she could, half an hour earlier.
Right. The confusion. Yeah. Wow. I am so sorry, Shawnee. How long ago did all this take place?
So this happened in 2018. And, your program being Heroes in Grief, one thing I did want to touch on that I have found in my journey is that there are many people who will say, gosh, you tell this story like it's not even your daughter. I mean, you're not crying. How do you do it? But and I know that over time, I mean, your brain just somehow learns to protect you from this pain and grief and reality. What people don't see are those first 2 years, 3 years, when you can barely get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
You can barely have a shower and get on with your life and function through your day. And so it has taken me this long to do what I wanted to do in the beginning, but I just did not have the strength for it. I knew I couldn't speak to people without crying. I couldn't write her story without, completely destroying my entire week.
Mm-hmm.
Crying, and it takes time to be able to make something good out of something so bad.
Yeah. And I'm a couple years in, and yesterday I just was looking at a picture of Jeff. We have some up on our garage. Our garage is made up with, flat screen TVs. It's another room really, and our sports room.
Yeah.
And I was looking at a couple pictures of them, and I can't look at them long, and it just was sinking in again hard, and I just can't dwell on that. I can't do that. And I think I sense from you too, I knew something was going to come out of this, and that I was going to be doing something, but again, took a little time. Mine's a little progressed from others, but I mean, yeah, you have to be ready for the time to attack it and go after. And boy, you're really taking it to a whole different level with what you are going through. And that is a frustrating and hard road that you're on. I feel anger in me, you telling you the story. And I imagine what you experience is just, tenfold. And that.
Is. So it's a fight. And it was a fight that I knew would take a lot of strength. And it's a double-sided fight. So my mission is the college safety piece, transparency, laws. Currently, the law for illicit drug spiking, so Rufinol, GABA, any of the drugs that they put in drinks. If you go to the emergency department and you say, I think I've been roofied, it is against the law for them to test for Rufinol or GABA unless there has been a sexual assault. Now, that is a really hard thing to believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I first heard it, I thought, no, that can't be true. That doesn't make any sense. I don't believe you. I looked it up. Sure enough, I found the senator who's trying to change this. And so the first state has been the state of Massachusetts, where there is currently a bill in Congress trying to change that law, that they will be allowed to test. They can test for cocaine. They can test for fentanyl. They can test for all kinds of drugs. Why not those two?
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So the story I heard was that because the person requesting it is impaired, they're confused, that doesn't create a situation of consent. So they're asking for something they can't ask for. Does it, you know what I mean? Which is nuts. So that's one of the laws. The other is, the Corey Safety Act. The Clery Act, they report crimes on campus as long as it doesn't come up to a body of water or a river or a roadway. And as soon as the geographics within that parameter of campus come up to a roadway or body of water, then it stops. So they don't have to report beyond that. Now, nobody knows that. It's in the red tape. Another loophole.
Yeah,
which is pretty significant.
Yeah, is that technically because they say that the campus stops there or something?
I don't know why that small piece of wording is in there. But that was brought to my attention by other people. I started this campaign and people came out of the woodwork to say, hey, guess what? I bet you don't know this. Here you go. And they're sending me maps of campuses. And the red areas are the areas they can report crime. And the yellow areas are the areas that are off the radar. You don't have to say a word. So sexual assaults are rampant on campus. And they don't have to report them. So this is where the problem is, it just...
Hello, friends. I just wanted to take a brief break here in the podcast to make you aware of a very exciting partnership that Heroes in Grief has just formed, and that is with Get Griefy Magazine. I'm going to let their founder and editor-in-chief, Kara Sanchez, tell you all about it.
Hey, Heroes in Grief listeners. Life after loss isn't easy, but it can be colorful and full of possibilities. Meet Get Griefy Magazine, a vibrant resource filled with inspiring stories of life after loss, expert advice, and voices from everyday grievers and thought leaders. Together, they're here to help guide you toward the side of life that's left to be lived fully and authentically. Dive into Get Griefy for free on issue or snag a print copy on Amazon. Connect with us on Instagram at Get Griefy Magazine or visit getgriefymagazine.com to explore, join our thriving small business collective, or discover advertising opportunities. Let's embrace life after loss, boldly and together.
And now back to our episode.
The second part of my mission beyond the college campus and safety and prevention is having a mandatory form. It does not mandatory in that you have to say yes or no, but that it is provided by every single school to the family on admission for HIPAA waiver, FERPA, for healthcare proxies, power of attorney, all of it, so that it's brought to their attention and the forms are readily available and easy to fill out and complete, so they don't end up in a situation like we did. We just didn't even know. I mean, we just thought next of kin was enough. And as soon as she turned 18, it wasn't enough. The hospital took guardianship of my daughter. And we were told if we wanted guardianship of my grown 18-year-old daughter, that I needed to go to court to get it, which would be a couple months. I needed guardianship right then and there. Right now, I needed her medical records so I could send them to other neurologists for a second opinion, but I didn't have access to that.
Ugh.
And without access to that, we discovered there was a significant injury that Miami missed. So here she was at Kendall Regional Hospital in a level 1 trauma center, but it wasn't the best hospital. And there was a medical error. There was an oversight. When we got her to Boston, to Mass General, they said, I'm so sorry, I don't know how they missed it, but here it is. Had we had access to medical records, we would have known that. We would have made a decision differently and not tortured this poor child for 6 weeks.
Where's common sense?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, we're taking on a lot. And to be honest, it's been, my husband sometimes says it's like pushing a rock up a hill. But if all we do is accomplish awareness and get this out there, and if we can get the transparency law, that would be huge. If we can get one of these things done, I would feel like we've done something.
Mm-hmm. Is there ways that people can come up with you and support you in any way?
Yes, we have an advisory committee. We're always looking for volunteers. You can sign up on the website. The book is the fundraiser. The book is also bringing awareness. We're trying to get the book out to college students as well, so they know what's happening and how this all played out, and how, the school didn't share any of this with any of the students, and none of it is public knowledge. And, we just feel like beyond a duty of care, there's a duty to warn. And they need to warn people of the dangers in that area, whatever it is. And that's really discouraging for us. So we want to get that out there. We want to do a safety campaign. And then we actually have some people working on legislation for Bayley's Law to pass a bill that would ensure that every school handed out the forms with admission.
Yeah, these institutions, they're so fearful of their reputations and all this. They've lost sight of caring for the children, and they say they do, and they say that they have the best interest in everything, but clearly they don't when these type of things happen, because their overriding persona changes everything for them, and so it's ridiculous. I'm sorry I cut you off there. You were
No, you're right. You're so right, and it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking, and I think that is where so many people say, this is hard to believe. How can that be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think as word gets out about this more and more, that's why I asked the question about people supporting you and being able to come on board, because The numbers matter, and the force of it will matter. Of course, you can go to your, legislatures, whoever, and legislators, I should say, and express interest in this as well.
Right.
But yeah, you need your support as well. Now, this sounds like a full time operation now. So, what were your husband and yourself retired at the time, or are you now?
No, no. I was pregnant with Savannah when Baylie was killed. I delivered a baby 3 months later. My husband hadn't had a family. I had three children in my very early 20s. And then in my 40s, we did IVF. My husband wanted a family. Um, so Savannah was born 3 months later, and then we went back for the last embryo, and that's Serafina. So we have two little girls. They are now 4 and 6. And my husband works full time. I'm at home with the girls, but now I'm doing this. So, and it's a lot. And, I definitely need help. I definitely need a team of people to help me do this. So you're right. And actually, you're giving me an excellent idea. I think we have a petition to sign for the Corey's Safety Act to bring to legislation for transparency, but I haven't had a petition um, per se for this group of laws that we want amended, including amnesty. Amnesty is another really big one because without amnesty laws, the kids just are so fearful to get in trouble. And getting in trouble at college is a big deal. If you are suspended or expelled, I mean, this is like everything. Your parents have spent a ton of money, and this is your whole future. And so these kids will go above and beyond to avoid trouble. But avoiding trouble when you're 18 and 19 often leads to somebody dying. And I can't tell you the number of boys we have heard over drinking, and instead of calling an ambulance for them because they've had alcohol poisoning, they just put them to bed in their dorm room because they don't want to get in trouble. And these boys don't wake up. And by the way, the college doesn't have to tell you that, or report that, or share that, or document that at all. So you have no idea how often this happens.
Right. The kids are not going to report. They're going to be scared to report. Wow.
Yeah. So I just think we can do better. I really do.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Would campuses allow, I think this is a ridiculous request probably, but if you provided literature or something about what you're doing, would they allow distribution of that on campus at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't gotten that far with the foundation. This is all still, really in the beginning stages. We have a lot of work to do and a lot of planning. And, I'm not really sure how we're going to tackle that. Perhaps it has to happen at the high school level. We may never be able to break into these colleges. They may just be like locked up Fort Knox. I mean, they may hate us. But we're going to try.
Well, yeah. A parent is going to say, so what? When this type of thing happens, I think you probably have experienced this where you change dramatically. And in a sense, although you care about so much because of empathy, you don't care a lot about other things that are peripheral. And so, I just thought of something too. I'm part of Helping Parents Heal, and they have an offshoot, Helping Fathers Heal. And one of the dads in there, his son died from fentanyl poisoning. My son died from fentanyl poisoning. So he has taken on a crusade against fentanyl and fentanyl awareness. And he's gone to Congress and everything else. And I would love to put you in touch with him. Perhaps he has some ways of directing you, as you approach the political arena, with these things and everything. So I will definitely put you in touch with him. And
I would appreciate it. Yes, we're in Helping Parents Heal.
How are you?
Yeah, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah,
group.
I find a lot of hope there, and
I do too.
yeah, very, very refreshing for sure. So the foundation is called Bailey's Wish Foundation. I want to get all the information out there, and we'll have everything in the show notes as usual. And then the book is called Baylie. And what's included in the
Yeah.
book itself?
Well, the book is quite a book. There are so many pieces to the book of my life and Bailey's life before the tragedy, how we ended up in Boston, and then her experience both at private school and then at the University of Miami. And there is a lot of mystical, strange, coincidental, synchronistic, if you call it, um, situations that occurred that have since led me to wonder about soul contracts, about Bailey's purpose on earth. And a lot of this comes out in the book. One of the most significant pieces was that on Bailey's nightstand, I mean, she's a neuroscience major, so it made sense. But she was reading a book about being in a coma and the search for consciousness.
Wow.
And so the book was written by Dr. Adrian Owen, and he had done a study on people who were in vegetative states. I mean, the worst of the worst. They were institutionalized, and they didn't believe that they could hear or respond to them. They were in a coma, basically permanently. And he found that 20% of these people were actually locked in. They could hear everything, and they were completely aware. And so the study had been brought to the U.S. They did a functional MRI on a person in a coma to see what they could respond to, visually. Can you move your left arm? Even though they can't move it, their head will show they're trying to. Baylie became the first patient in the United States at Mass General to undergo a trial study on the search for consciousness in trauma patients in a coma through the only doctor in the U.S. that she happened to be admitted under, Dr. Brian Edlow. He wrote the foreword for the book.
Wow.
And that was our final decision. But the fact that she was reading about it, and not only that, the bookmark that she was on, the page she was on, was about a 19-year-old girl hit by a car.
Oh my gosh. See, now, no, hold everything right there. Hold your story. I want to tell everyone right now, because they watch this podcast a lot, and they may know I'm totally into this stuff. So this is not a setup. I have not read your book at all. I really didn't look at the background of the book at all. I just saw it listed on your site. I don't like to research that way because I like to hear the story from the person. And so I had no idea that it involved all those things. I look at those as confirmations to me that pursuing these things, realizing the things that I do. I just, before I came upstairs to do this podcast, got out of my car and there was a cardinal in our driveway. And I have seen a cardinal in this, where I live now for 15 some years, maybe twice in my whole life here. And this is the second time. And so I'm like, Jeff, how you doing? And I tried to get a picture, and this happens often in the things that Jeff does to me. It flew away before I could get the picture, and I just laugh. I'm like, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. But yeah, this is, folks, this is the way it happens. These synchronicities, all these things that happen. This is what we talk about all the time. I had no clue that you were into that at all. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so, so you talked, well, I'm sorry, I interrupted you on the story of the book, where it was and everything. But I just wanted to get that out for everybody, because I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. People are going to think I'm setting it up or something.
Well, it is. It's really amazing. The more grieving parents you speak to, the more of this you hear. And I thought for a little while that I was kind of going crazy. I was like, what is happening? I read her book. Her book became the guide for ending her life. As I was reading the book and it was unfolding in front of us, her destiny was in the book. And I was following along and listening and saying, I understand. This is what you want. I understand. This is your message to me. You're speaking to me. And I knew what she wanted. I knew what to do. And then it continued from there. Before Baylie died, she had left us breadcrumbs. She had left messages. She had given me a gift for the new baby in September when she left for school, actually the end of August, with a beautiful card that she wrote on all 3 pages of the card, a long letter to me about what kind of mother I had been to her and the kind of mother I will be to this new baby.
Oh.
And I said, Baylie, you're coming back for Thanksgiving and you'll be home at Christmas. The baby's not due till January. And she said, I needed to give it to you now.
Yeah, they know.
She knew.
They know.
She
Yeah,
knew.
they do somehow. It just escaped me something I was going to ask you. Yeah, sorry, I lost it.
Okay. Yeah, we all are on this very strange path. And, anyone who loses a child, I really encourage they go to Helping Parents Heal, because of all the grieving parent groups and communities that I was a part of, that was the one that made me feel like I wasn't crazy and that these things really do happen to other people.
Mm-hmm. I did read on your site, and again, just a bit, a little caption about the book there or whatever. Now, you started writing memoirs before, and that you were going to write a book or something beforehand?
No, Baylie wanted to write my book.
She wanted to write your book.
She wanted to write my memoir that summer. And she started writing it. She wrote the first chapter in the book. She didn't know that it was going to be about her. My story, we had a very rocky start. Baylie's life was very rough in the beginning. And when we came out of a domestic violence situation, there had been a bankruptcy. We were running away when we came to Boston. And she wanted me to write that book. And I was just like, Baylie, I don't know that I want to relive that part of my life. And she's like, but it'll help so many other people. And so she wrote the first chapter, and then this tragedy happened. And I knew I had to finish her book, but it wouldn't be about me. So I included that part in the beginning of our life, where we ended up, and then what happened.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how so many times we recognize now, maybe down the line afterwards, because you don't think about it while they're living a lot of times, the kind of like the old soul thing or the awareness level of our kids and how they're seeing things, that we can look afterwards and say they knew something, or it seemed that they knew something.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So there is a lot of that in the book, for sure.
That brings a lot of comfort too. As hard as the pain is, I've been feeling it more recently, than normal. And it just always come back to those things and say, there's a bigger picture here. And that is a hopeful picture. And it's amazing that you can have the perspective of that. I know a lot of people may not understand that in their journey right now. And it's for you to recognize and understand, just be open to it, because it can be there for you. That's our messages of hope that we bring, a lot of times. So, it's amazing. It's so it's complex, it's kind of interwoven, and you realize that, and you mentioned soul contracts, and that's going deep for a lot of people. I know that too, but I believe in those things too. I believe it was for the betterment of me personally, what I'm experiencing. And it's a work in progress, but I believe it was, and the enlightenment of a lot of things.
I agree with you. There is more to this. And I actually think that's what gets you through.
Yeah.
If you can have that faith that there is a bigger picture and that life is eternal. And for those who think I'm crazy, I say to them, you know what? That's okay. Let me be crazy until the day I die, because this is what's getting me through. And that's okay.
Yeah. At the very minimal, that's good. Yeah.
So I just think that is a really hopeful thing. The other thing for me in early grief that I found helpful, I went to see, I mean, because I was having a baby and I was in postpartum depression and I was on meds and they thought I was postpartum psychosis. So I was seeing psychiatrists and grief counselors and everybody. But the one I saw, he had done some specific work on parents of kids in the high school shootings, victims. Wow. And the study revealed that it was a 2-year process. The deep grieving took 2 years. And he said what the study revealed was that their brain actually has to go through a rewiring process that takes about 2 years to rebuild new networks and to be able to like encompass this pain and store it and protect it and keep it in a place where it doesn't interfere with your survival. So that was helpful for me because every time I thought I can't do this anymore, I understood my brain is rewiring. Mm-hmm. It has to rebuild. And I always thought if I had known that right away, it gives you a little perspective on what's happening.
Yeah, we mentioned that a lot in the podcast here because actually Sandra Champlain, she wrote a book, We Don't Die, and it was after the death of her father, and she started exploring, trying to make contact with him and those type of things. But she has a tremendous chapter in there. Chapter 10 is all about grief, and it's a textbook for people in grief. It's I highly recommend it. Just go to her site. Actually, the book, she doesn't put this out there, but it's for free. You can get the book free on her site. And, but in that chapter is I don't know why I hadn't heard this before, but it totally makes sense. And I have a bit of a medical background. I worked ambulance for a long time and things. So, but your brain actually changes in grief. And there are, short circuits and all the things that you experience in the grief fog, the memory losses, the inability to concentrate, all of those things are real from the physiological standpoint of what's happening to you. And it's important for people to recognize that early on because you think you're going crazy. You know that you're not right. And you might be fearful to even verbalize that you're experiencing these things. And so I think it's very important for people to know that there's something actually happening, and there's ways of retraining it and recycling that to get it back, even by doing physical things and getting serotonin levels back up and those type of things. So it's important.
I agree with you. And I really do wish that we could bring more awareness in our culture to grief as a society. I mean, I know as a nurse, I was working at Brigham and Women's. Do you know how many days off you would get if you lost a child? 3 days. 3 days.
It's absurd.
I never went back to work again. But, this in 3 days, you would actually be a very dangerous person at work. I was giving medication to newborns. I would have overdosed somebody. I mean, I couldn't think straight. Couldn't get myself out of a paper bag. So it's dangerous actually to expect people to perform under that kind of stress.
Yeah, huge point. I agree. We kind of laugh about it sometimes in the grief circles where it's like, oh yeah, 3 to 5 days off and come back and be normal. I was fortunate. I was self-employed, but for 3 months I sat there like a zombie at my dining room table, drinking daily and till I fell asleep and just no concept of what life was going to be or should be or anything else. And I couldn't imagine having to focus or be, using machinery or whatever. That's ridiculous.
Right? Yeah. It is. It's ridiculous.
Dangerous. You're right. Dangerous. Yeah. I'm all about getting awareness out there too, proactively. I think we need to get it out there way more proactively in our society. Start educating people from the beginning in schools, everything else. There's programs for children that can make them aware of how to be a better griever and how to be a better grief helper and everything else. It's never gonna eliminate the pain of losing somebody in this life, but the awareness levels can certainly help in so many ways. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think what you're doing is wonderful. So thank you for having me. This is great.
Well, this is what it's all about. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with everybody at this point? Anything that we maybe didn't cover or something that
No,
So,
I think we covered a lot of it. Just to know that the proceeds from the book support the foundation. It is a fundraiser. I hope people will buy the book or consider donating or volunteering to be a part of it. And if you have any kids in college or kids coming up the ranks, this is for every parent and every student. We need to be aware of these safety concerns, and even more so as our kids are going into a world that's changing.
mm-hmm. I'm definitely going to do my part to get this out there a lot because some of them hit me a little harder than others. And this is just so absurd to me that, and, the absurdity of the political system and institutions and everything else is just, it really gets me. So I will definitely be pushing this out there and to make people aware of what you're doing. And like I said, I'll put you in touch with, his name is Jaime Puerta from California, that is working on the fentanyl awareness. And I know he's talked before Congress and everything else, so he's very big in it. And I think he's making some progress,
Wonderful.
which is great. So
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tom. And again, mine overlaps with his because I'm sure the colleges aren't sharing that, the fentanyl crisis within the school and how many kids have overdosed in that college campus.
mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
it is an overlap.
Yeah. All right, Shawnee Baker, thank you for sharing today, and appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes in Grief podcast. If you'd like access to any of the links that we discussed in today's show, you can find them in the show notes. There's also a link there to support the podcast if you care to. And there is an email link for me there. I'd love to hear from you and your ideas about the show or what you thought about the show. You really can help out this podcast to get to more people if you subscribe, rate, or review it in whichever way your platform provides. Each week, Heroes in Grief is released on Sunday, so look for new episodes there. Thank you again for listening to Heroes in Grief.